Hello, my name is Tenisha Cherenfant. I am an intern here at the National Sports Media Association. Today I am interviewing Steve Serby with the New York Post. Hi, Steve. How are you today?
Tenisha, it's Tenisha, right?
Yes.
I just make sure wanted to pronounce that correctly.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Thank you.
Um,
Thank you for doing this.
oh, no problem. Thank you for meeting with me. So let's go straight into it and then we'll start conversating if that's okay with you. So
Whatever you like.
I know you've been covering the New York Jets sports for a good some decades now. When you look at the landscape from right now to when you first started, what stands out to you most in New York sports from today?
Well, by the way, it's not only the Jets. I cover the New York Giants as well,
Oh wow.
and I do Q&As in Sunday's New York Post with athletes in any and every sport.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be doing college basketball, the Big East tournament, March Madness. I do that every year as well. So I'm all over the place. Anyway, what stands out is when I started in this business long before you were born, there was no such thing as Twitter. When I started, ESPN was barely starting. It hadn't even started.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so there's a lot, nobody had a podcast. Like I said, nobody was on Twitter. It's a whole different world now. It requires 24/7 virtually attention to your job. And that's why if you don't have a passion for what you do, you have no chance to succeed.
Okay, so would you say now with all the benefits and technology and stuff that is in sports now, would you say the market is tougher since when you started, or is it easier?
It's both. The information, back in the old days, I we all used to look up stuff in the encyclopedia. Now, you just can Google whatever you like, and you'll find it. So in that way, it's easier to accumulate knowledge, and on the other hand, it's all over the place. I mean, everybody, like I said, everybody has a podcast. Everybody is on Twitter, Instagram. The athletes today go directly to the public for better or for worse, uh, via Instagram, via Twitter, via TikTok. And it's our job now to follow all of it.
Mhm.
So it's more challenging, but it's more fun at the same time.
Okay, so you would say that today's athletes are harder to cover than but back then because you have to keep track of so many things and they have so
Well,
much freedom.
I think the reason they're harder to cover now is because the money has gone crazy.
Hmm.
They make so much money now that most of them that um, they pick their spots as to the interviews and the interviewees that they want to deal with. Uh, when I started at the New York Post, I covered high school sports, high school basketball mainly,
Hmm.
and the players. What I enjoyed about that was the players appreciated you being interested in them.
Hmm.
The players today are not quite as interested. And the ones that get it, though, the ones that are accessible and cordial, like Derek Jeter was as captain of the Yankees. I could go up to him anytime and talk to him. Eli Manning with the New York Giants, same way. These guys are class acts. They get it and they understand. They understood what media and presenting yourself as a first class individual could do for their life, for their careers after baseball or football. A lot of these younger athletes today don't understand uh, what what they can accomplish in their post sports life by being cooperative, accessible, and cordial with the media.
So, how would you describe the relationship between media and players? Because The way how you describe it is, it sounds like you guys have a tough relationship right now.
Yeah, a lot of the a lot of the players seem to forget in training camps they have media training, but once they're criticized, some of them uh, they take it personally. A lot of them are not used to being criticized. They're pampered and spoiled, many of them, but many of them are not at the same token. But back in 1981, I had an altercation with the quarterback of the New York Jets named Richard Todd, and uh, I attacked his right hand with my throat. That was a joke, Tanisha. That was a joke. He came he came after me and pushed me into a locker
Mm-hmm.
because he didn't like something I had written. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
he ended up being fined for it. Back in 1981, he was fined $1,500, which back then was a nice chunk of change.
Mm-hmm.
But the athletes today are they're very very sensitive, and in too many cases there's an adversarial relationship between the players and the media, and it's unfortunate, but that's the way it is, and it's not going to change.
Okay, so I know you're known for having like a very bold and distinctive voice in the columns. So what is something that came to you naturally, or did you have to grow it with confidence?
No, it didn't come naturally, no, but I mean, I grew up in North Massapequa, Long Island, and I learned how to read and write by reading the New York Post. My father would bring it home from Manhattan on the train on the Long Island Railroad, and I'd wait for him to get home, grab the New York Post, and read some of my favorite columnists and writers, and also Sports Illustrated. Also was a big key for me. That's how I learned how to read and write, basically. And Newsday, growing up on Long Island, Newsday was the daily newspaper that we got back in North Massapequa. And but it takes years and years to develop a style of your own. And I'm still evolving, I think. I hope I'm evolving, but I enjoy reading some of my colleagues, um, especially a guy named Mike Vaccaro, who is our columnist at the New York Post, who I think is one of a kind. Um, and that's why it's such an honor to receive this award, because it's up to me. I'd give it to Mike Vaccaro every single year. So
Right.
maybe next year we could get Mike Vaccaro to win this award. But I'm honored and humbled that I was chosen for this with Rich Cimini as co-New York Sports Writers of the Year. Rich Cimini is a Hall of Famer in my book too.
I'll for sure put in a word for Mike with Dave for you. Yes, I will.
Okay, all right, yeah, but like I said, I'm still evolving. I try to be um, hard hitting, informative, and entertaining. Those are the two keys, and provocative and insightful. Now, am I 100%? No, not nowhere near 100%. And I'm big on humor. I love injecting humor whenever I can. I used to have a column called Mr. Loser, where I pretended to lose football games, football bets on teams that lost in fluke ways at the very end vis-a-vis the point spread. And it was a very popular column, but nowadays you can't do that. I used to write it Monday for Tuesday's New York Post.
Mhm.
Nowadays it's online. It you know TV can do it 5 minutes after the game ends. You can see who is Mr. Loser. So I can't do that really anymore, unfortunately. Maybe I'll figure out a way to do it.
I feel like there's a way you could probably slip that in there. So
Well, you'll have to help me on that, Tanisha.
I can for sure. I'll look into it and let you know. So with all the words you described when putting into you as an author, How do you handle backlash when it comes to you?
Um, well, I don't read Twitter comments. Some of my colleagues make the mistake of responding to people that are basically just looking to get under your skin. So I don't engage in that kind of banter. Um, some of these Twitter responses are over the top and uncalled for. Um, but the best thing to do for a writer or for an athlete is to stay off Twitter as much as possible because it's a no-win situation.
I agree.
Really
So
is. By
when
the way, you didn't ask me about the books I've written.
well, what books have you written?
I'm glad you asked. Um, I wrote a book with the great Lawrence Taylor from North Carolina,
Oh, really?
University of North Carolina, and I wrote one with Brett Favre's one season with the New York Jets, 2008. But the Lawrence Taylor book was really interesting and really challenging because Lawrence is not media friendly. I covered him when he was a player with the Giants, and he really wanted very little to do with the media. And I would walk him out of the locker room, and he would snap at me, "What do you want, Serby? What do you want?" And I would just keep walking with him to his car. And then he saw that I wouldn't give up. And then once he started talking, he was one of the best interviews, one of the best quotes that I've ever dealt with. So we ended up doing a book together. Uh, he would he had an apartment in Hackensack, New Jersey,
Mhm,
but he lives in Florida. So
mhm,
he would fly in every couple of months, give me 2 hours at his apartment in Hackensack before he had to catch a plane out of Newark Airport, leave for 2 months, come back 2 months later. We do the same thing over again.
mhm.
But it ended up on the New York Times bestseller list. I'm proud to report.
Well,
Uh, and
congratulations.
he's still to this day, he still gives me a hard time every time I call him. But he's one of my favorites. He's got a obviously he's been in some controversies, um, but Giants fans love him, and it was an honor for me to do the book with him. He's arguably the greatest defensive player in NFL history, and he's one of my favorite people.
So, to follow up on that, with the books and the columns that you've written, have you ever like written something where you've have like hesitated before like publishing it?
No, I've written things that I wish I hadn't written. In retrospect, I wrote a column about Mike Piazza when he played with the Mets, where he sat out the last game of a series in the end of May against the Phillies at home. And I didn't mean to disparage him, but I wrote that that was why Derek Jeter was the captain of New York baseball. He took it personally, and I believe he has a grudge to this day, but it was not my intention to put him in a bad light. But that's unfortunately what the column did, I think. So I would take that one back if I could, and probably some others too. Just can't think of them right at this time.
So, a lot of things us young writers struggle with, like in college right now, is us making sure our papers aren't opinionated, but it's still powerful and impacting the people. How do you separate your writings from your opinions, but also pleasing the general public?
Well, I'm hopeful that my opinions please the general public. Why are you struggling with giving your opinion?
So like they would say like it's sometimes too opinionated or like you include too much of your opinion and too much instead of like someone else's quote or opinion or not
Yes.
enough research behind it.
Yeah. Well, back when I started, it was not my job to offer my opinion. It was just to report the facts. But now, as a columnist, it's my job to give a loud voice to what I write. And that's what the paper wants from me, and that's what I deliver.
So you have the freedom to write anything you choose, whether it's good or bad.
Yes, absolutely. Yep. Pro or con. Uh, as the key is to be passionate and take a stand in something that you feel strongly about or you believe in, and that's the job of the columnist. Um, we don't get paid to be milk toast. We don't get paid to be. We get paid to shout our opinions from the rooftop.
So then that's my follow-up question is like once you post your opinion and it is out there for everyone, even though that is your opinion, how do you face when the mass isn't agreeing with you? Especially now
Well,
with social media.
yeah, I like I said, I don't care what social media thinks. Social media is going to disagree or agree.
Right.
Sometimes they'll agree overwhelmingly, sometimes they'll disagree overwhelmingly, but it's my opinion. So that's what matters to me.
Right.
Everybody, there was an old expression. This is a joke, so I'm warning you. Everybody is entitled to my opinion. It's a joke.
Yeah.
Now, it's a bad joke, but it's a
Hmm.
joke. No, but seriously, it's um, what I feel strongly about is what I write, and I don't give a darn uh, whether people agree with me or not.
Right. So I want to take it back for a second. Before you were writing for the New York Post, when you were in college, did you know this is exactly what you wanted to do, or did you have like some other crazy college career path?
No, I when I was growing up on Long Island, all I cared about was sports. I didn't have a single date in high school. I didn't go to the senior prom. Girls scared me. Um, all I cared about was sports. And in my junior year of high school, I took a creative writing course, and the teacher of the course happened to be the editor of the student paper, The Devil's Tale, Plain Edge High School. And he convinced me to write for the school paper. And so, I mean, I'm not too smart, but I did put two and two together. I love sports and I love writing. I became a sports writer. So I went to Ohio University because they had a good journalism school. And as a matter of fact, I was there during the Kent State riots at 3 hours away from Ohio University.
Really?
And our university, Ohio University, closed a month early because we had riots on our campus. Back then, you look it up, the Vietnam War, there was
Hmm.
all kinds of chaos and turmoil going on. And of course, four unfortunate deaths, Kent State students. Um, a, a, a trying time in our country, um, one of the many trying times in our country.
So, since you started so young in high school, what was your first published piece? Do you remember? And then how did it feel when you saw your name in print?
Oh, I was ecstatic. I couldn't believe it. It was a dream come true. Even in high school, I got a kick out of it, and I got to interview some of my high school buddies who were on the sports teams that I couldn't play for um, because I was too small and too unathletic. But and then when the first time in the New York Post, boy, that was something special because, as I said, my father would bring home the New York Post every day from Manhattan. He worked in the Garment Center,
Mhm.
and I would grab that New York Post, and devour it and read every writer who I eventually got to meet when I started at the New York Post, and that was another thrill for me. I'm meeting my heroes growing up.
Okay, I like that. So, now that you are as big as the writers that you used to look up to when you were younger, New York is known as the toughest media market in the country. What does it take to survive there long term?
It's a good question. It takes thick skin, which it takes to be an athlete in New York as well. But you know what? I think the vaunted New York media sometimes gets overrated. There's just more of us in the locker room, more of us firing questions. But the media in many cities that I go to can also be very harsh and very critical and very demanding because the public, the they call fans a short for fanatics, right? So they're writing for these fanatics, and like there's just more of us in New York, but you can't be scared. You have to write what you believe in, what you feel, and you owe it to the public to give them, whether they agree or disagree, your opinion.
So, when you first started out and as you were climbing up the ladder in the New York Post, has it ever been times where you've doubted yourself and how did you get over that?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, there's times where the editors may not have liked what you wrote, and you question why they didn't like it. And sometimes I can sometimes you get into a flow where you're writing great stuff or good stuff for a period of time, and then sometimes, I don't want to call it writer's block, but sometimes you just get out of that zone, which is what the athletes call it, and you get into a little bit of a slump, and you start to question, what am I doing right, what am I doing wrong? And but fortunately those slumps don't last too long, and like I said, you've got to be resilient, and you've got to be convicted. You have to have a conviction about what you write and what you do.
So, as someone that's been in the decade for so long, also, what do you think separates writers from the ones who last and then from the ones who don't?
Um, that's a good question. So did you think of these questions yourself?
Yeah, like I thought of them and brought them to you.
Well, very good. Good job on your part. You want to be a writer someday?
Yeah, I'm interested in being a sports journalist.
Are you majoring in journalism?
I'm gonna go into journalism this May,
Where at?
right here at High Point University.
Oh, okay. Um, what was the question? I'm sorry, I forgot.
No, you're fine. I was saying what separates writers from ones who last and ones who don't.
Well, the ones who last, A, have a natural talent, B, are able to network and are able to identify writers that they really like and their styles. And knowledge is very important of whatever sport you're covering. You have to know that sport. Relationships with the people you cover, um, the way you ask questions. You can't be a jerk. You try to be a professional as often as possible, and passion, a passion for what you do. If you don't have a passion in any walk of life, then you're not going to be successful. So uh, those are the things I think are required to be successful, and just just being a good person helps. And I pride myself on that more than I do anything. I pride myself on being a good person.
So my next question is, if you were a 20-year-old entering the journalism world now in
How do you know I'm not?
2026,
How do you know I'm not 20 now?
oh, well, if you were 19,
Oh, okay.
if you're a 19-year-old entering the journalism world now in 2026, what is something that you would do differently to stand out?
Nothing, because here I am. Right. I
Hmm.
I must have been doing something right as a 20-year-old. I was writing for the Ohio University Post as a 20-year-old, um, and that's when I started um, basically learning on the fly how to write, and and starting at the New York Post, I started with high schools, and that was a good indoctrination for me, a good training period before I started covering the New York Jets in 1977. And that was an experience. That was a little nerve-wracking at first because that was the first professional team I had covered on a daily basis. I was the beat writer for the New York Jets from 1977 to 1982. Then I became the NFL writer in 1983. And now I'm a columnist, mainly NFL columnist, but like I said, March Madness, Big East Tournament, baseball. Every Sunday I write a Q&A with figures from all over the sports world. And but I wouldn't have done I'm glad it worked out the way I did, because look at this award I just won.
Mhm.
And maybe it took 50 something years, but hey, patience is a virtue, right?
So in today, with a lot of technology and a lot of things that are affecting how we work now, instead of just like writing on paper and bringing your ideas to a room, now we can share it in email and we don't even have to travel across spaces. What skills do you think matter most when you're bringing in or when you're trying to go into a big business space like that?
Well, let me just backtrack. When I started at the New York Post, back then I used to write my stories out longhand on a piece of paper, and we'd have somebody in the office on South Street. Back then, the New York Post was on South Street. Somebody in the office, I would read the story off my sheet of paper into the phone, and the lady on the other end of the phone would record it and then play it back in the office at her own speed. And that's the way we did things back then. And then, of course, we got Radio Shack computers years later. And nowadays, I'm the only person in the country that writes my columns on my iPhone.
Really?
Yeah, I don't bring my computer on the road any time at all. My colleagues cannot believe when they see me in the press box writing on my little iPhone 12 my columns and emailing it to my office. Nobody else in the country does it. I
Oh,
feel more comfortable on my iPhone than I do a computer.
Have you should get an iPad,
No, I don't have an iPad.
but you should try it because like an iPad's just like a bigger version of an iPhone.
You know what? I'm very comfortable on my iPhone. Lots of times I'll go out to a Jets or Giants facility, do the interview, and then go to my car. My car is like my office, and that's how I became comfortable writing on my iPhone. I'll
Mhm.
write my column in my car. I'm
Okay.
not I'm not normal. I'm not normal. But I think you've learned that already.
Well, yeah. So thank you so much, Steve. I really appreciate it. I wanted to end off our interview with something a little fun. So it's called like hot take or hard pass. I'll give you like a statement and then you tell me as a columnist, would you take the statement and write about it or would you pass for it?
Okay.
Okay, you ready?
Yep.
Okay, so New York is the toughest sports market in America.
Oh, I'd write about that.
Okay, columnists should be more opinionated than reporters.
Absolutely. No question. That's the nature of the job.
Sports media and social media have made sports journalism worse.
I'll take a pass on that. Yeah, I'm divided on that one, but it's there's just so much information that's available now that in some ways it's made our jobs easier as newspaper or reporters because of the proliferation of knowledge. So I'll say no. The answer is
No.
no.
Okay, sometimes controversy is necessary.
Well, to sell newspapers, it is, yes.
And then lastly, athletes today are the most media trained than ever.
Yes, they are. Not all of them listen to what they've been taught, but there's no question about it. Pro teams make it a point to make them aware, at least, that people like me are actually human.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Steve. I really, really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to speak with me and sharing so much insight from where you started to where you are now. Is there anything else you would like to share for anyone?
No, I just want to thank everybody for this award. I'm very honored and humbled by it, and it's there were so many worthy candidates. I mean,
Well,
I
it was
couldn't.
well deserved. You deserved it.
I appreciate that. I mean, but again, it's I'll never think I'm better than anyone else. There are so many talented writers in New York, all across the country. That's why this is such a meaningful award for me. It's I can't tell you uh, how honored I am. So thank you and thank everybody else.
No problem.